Did the Houthis just make a massive miscalculation? Because the US military just unleashed a devastating wave of airstrikes, and the impact has been nothing short of brutal. We're talking destroyed military bases, wiped out radar systems, and mounting casualties. But here's the twist. This wasn't just a retaliation. It was a calculated strike aimed at breaking the Houthis' grip on the Red Sea for good. It all kicked off on March 15th when US forces launched a series of precision airstrikes on Sanaa, the Houthi stronghold in Yemen. And they didn't stop there. Over the next 72 hours, key Houthi infrastructure was systematically targeted. Airports, military camps, and communication hubs all took direct hits. The Houthis claimed they fought back, saying they launched missiles at US warships. But according to Pentagon reports, those attacks were completely ineffective. But this isn't just about Yemen, it's about Iran. The Houthis have long acted as Iran's proxy, disrupting global trade and threatening US and Western ships in the Red Sea. Now the US is sending a clear message: enough is enough. So, what's next? Are we on the brink of a larger conflict with Iran, or is this just the beginning of a prolonged military campaign? Stay with me, because we're about to break down exactly what happened and why it matters more than you think. The recent U.S. airstrikes on Houthi targets in Yemen mark a dramatic escalation in the conflict, and the strategic implications are massive. This wasn't just a show of force. It was a carefully planned military operation aimed at crippling the Houthis' ability to threaten U.S. and allied ships in the Red Sea. But why now? And why such a massive response? To understand why the U.S. launched such a decisive attack, we need to go back to the root of the conflict. The Houthis are a Shiite militant group based in Yemen. They've been engaged in a brutal civil war against the internationally recognized Yemeni government since 2014. But the real power behind the Houthis is Iran. Iran has been funding, training, and arming the Houthis for years, using them as a proxy to expand their influence in the region and to apply pressure on Saudi Arabia and the US. The conflict escalated in early 2025 when the Houthis began targeting commercial and military vessels in the Red Sea. This narrow but vital waterway is one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world, handling about 12% of global trade. The Houthis claimed they were responding to US support for Israel and the blockade on Gaza. But the truth is, these attacks were part of a broader strategy by Iran to disrupt global trade and undermine US dominance in the region. Over the past few months, the Houthis have carried out dozens of missile and drone attacks on Western and allied vessels. Most of these attacks were intercepted by US naval forces, but the threat became too large to ignore. Shipping companies started rerouting their vessels around the Cape of Good Hope, adding massive costs and delays to global supply chains. And that's when the decision was made to strike back. On the night of March 15th, the US military launched a coordinated series of airstrikes on key Houthi targets in Sanaa, the Yemeni capital, and other strategic locations. The strikes were carried out using a combination of fighter jets, Tomahawk missiles, and drones launched from U.S. Navy warships in the Red Sea. The primary targets included air defense systems. The U.S. took out advanced radar installations and surface-to-air missile sites, weakening the Houthis' ability to respond to future attacks. Military bases and warehouses. Precision strikes destroyed stockpiles of missiles, drones, and other weapons, many of which were supplied by Iran. Command and communication hubs. The U.S. targeted facilities used for coordinating attacks on shipping lanes, disrupting the Houthis' ability to launch future operations. Pentagon officials confirmed that the operation was a success, with most targets destroyed or heavily damaged. In total, over 30 high-value targets were hit in a span of just 72 hours. Reports from the ground suggest that the strikes inflicted significant casualties on Houthi forces, although exact numbers remain unclear. But the Houthis didn't just sit back and take the hit. They responded by launching a wave of missile and drone attacks aimed at U.S. warships patrolling the Red Sea. However, U.S. missile defense systems intercepted most of these attacks, with no reported damage or casualties on the American side. The immediate goal of the strikes was to degrade the Houthis' military capabilities, and by all accounts, that objective was achieved. But the long-term strategic goal is bigger: to secure the Red Sea and prevent Iran from using the Houthis as a tool to disrupt global trade and destabilize the region. By hitting the Houthis this hard, the U.S. sent a clear message, not just to the Houthis, but to Iran and its network of proxies across the Middle East, has been under increasing pressure to confront Iran more directly, especially after months of attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria by Iranian-backed militias. This strike signals that the U.S. is no longer willing to tolerate low-level harassment and indirect attacks on its forces and interests. At the same time, this escalation carries significant risks. The Houthis have proven to be highly adaptable. Even if their immediate capabilities are reduced, they could regroup and shift to more asymmetric tactics, such as using smaller, harder-to-detect drones or focusing on cyber attacks. And then, there's the risk of dragging Iran further into the conflict. Iran has already condemned the strikes, calling them an act of aggression, and vowing to support the Houthis. If Iran decides to increase its military aid, or even directly engage U.S. forces in the region, we could see a much larger conflict unfold. The conflict in Yemen has always had broader implications for global security and trade, but now the stakes are even higher. The Red Sea is a critical artery for oil and gas shipments from the Middle East to Europe and Asia. A prolonged disruption could drive up global energy prices and worsen inflation, something Western governments are desperate to avoid. There's also the diplomatic fallout to consider. Saudi Arabia and the UAE, both of which have been involved in the Yemeni conflict for years, have supported the U.S. strikes. But other regional powers, including Russia and China, have condemned the attack, accusing the U.S. of destabilizing the region. This could lead to increased tension at the United Nations and complicate ongoing peace talks. So, what happens next? Will the Houthis back down? Or is this just the beginning of a bigger conflict? They're ready to strike again if the Houthis keep attacking ships in the Red Sea, but with Iran backing them, the Houthis might not retreat so easily. This could either escalate into a dangerous new chapter in the Middle East, or it might just be the move that finally stabilizes the region and restores order to global trade. What do you think? Did the US make the right call, or is this going to backfire? Mention your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next update. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.